Yeah, what's poppin' guys, Sizzle here, and today we're taking a look at Hanzo, and I'm gonna go talk about kind of my thoughts on the hero. Hey, yet again, it seemed to actually be getting faster queues recently, so I'm not allowed to actually show off the abilities before playing. But Hanzo, a lot of people think it's a bullshit hero. There's been a lot of complaints about his one-shot and his ability to do one-shot damage by headshotting, and just how, like, bullshit and RNG the character is. And honestly, I think that's all just bullshit in and of itself. I think Hanzo's completely fine in the game. I don't know why. Like, I know why those complaints come out. I get that feeling probably every 100 games I have against a Hanzo, there's maybe 2 games where I genuinely understand why people complain. Because, like, the enemy Hanzo when you play Hanzo, you have those games. There's sometimes you just, like, you shoot around a corner, and the guy... there's just some Lucio that you killed for the 10th time because you were just spamming around a corner. It's kind of the same way where you can spam on Junkrat or something. Like any projectile healer, pretty much. You generally spam corners and stuff. But Hanzo, because he can one-shot, tends to get the most reward for just raw-ass spam. And there are just those games where you get really lucky and start hitting a lot. But the thing is, like I said, that game is, what, 2 in every 100? That's not every game with Hanzo. It's not every game against Hanzo. It's not every game as Hanzo. It's pretty straightforward. What the hell is this? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. He's got a wall climb. He's got a leap that's on a 4-second cooldown. He has an arrow that can give you intel with sights. It's on a pretty long 12-second cooldown. And just in case he ever gets pushed in close, he has this storm arrow thing where you can fire a few rapid shots that do a little bit less damage, but still a lot of damage. And it's mainly used for, like, helping kill tanks and stuff. But a lot of Hanzo is kind of similar in ways to, like, Kiriko or whatever, where it's just, if you aim your shots around the head, and you kind of almost, like, wait for people to walk in your crosshair, that's where you get rewarded with your kills. I mean, you guys watched that. It wasn't like I was flicking to anyone's head. They basically just, I aim here, I'm like, okay, they can be in the corner, and boom. They're around the corner, they get shot. Hanzo just generally capitalizes when you have very predictable movement. Right? If you're walking in a straight line in one direction, if you're not really paying attention to your surroundings, if you're taking the same path every time, Hanzo will always be able to kind of punish you for it. That's a lot of his design. Now, I don't really view that as a problem. By nature being projectile, he's not really bullshit at long range. If you die to a Hanzo at long range, you were watching him shoot his arrow there, and you kind of walked into it, right? It's on you. Right? Me dying to this Hanzo here, it's about the longer edge of range. I was playing way too far out in the open, and then just like any normal DPS character, he kind of killed me for it. A McCree or Sojourn or whatever could have done the exact same kill there. You can see, like, it's not just free. I'm not just getting guaranteed kills. Especially when it's point blank, even the storm arrows don't really help you unless it's against tanks. Right, the reason he got the storm arrow was a replacement for the scatter shot, which used to have him one-shot tanks. And they were like, well, that's a bit bullshit, because it was. And now, instead of that, he can just damage them decently heavily and kind of, like, spam them out. It's like McCree's Fan the Hammer. It's kind of like a whatever option. It doesn't one-shot tanks. It's not really that bullshit or whatever. I don't know. I think a lot of the Hanzo's one of the more hated DPS as far as I've seen. I've seen so many people complaining about him for no good reason. He's got way more hate than... Well, sorry, he doesn't have as much hate as Junkrat, who's probably universally the most hated DPS, which I don't really fully understand. But he's around the same level from my experience of hatred as Torbjorn, who a lot of people hate because they play Genji and Lucio and stuff, and the turret auto-tracks or whatever. And that, to be fair, that is like the one kind of annoying thing about Tor, but they keep toning it back, and at this point, I think it's kind of fair, honestly. Even playing Lucio, I mean, sure, it can be kind of annoying, but I wouldn't really call for its removal. That's like the whole design of the character. But I mean, that's kind of Hanzo, right? He can one-shot you if you fuck up. If he hits a good headshot, he has his shots well placed. If he kind of predicts your movement well enough, right? Like that Sojourn is very clearly going to keep walking back. Right here, I'm just spamming because there's a big crowd of people here, and you don't want to group up against a lot of heroes like Junkrat and Hanzo. Right, there have to be heroes to kind of counteract any playstyle. I mean, Junkrat does it way better than Hanzo, but Hanzo definitely can dissuade people from grouping up too much, and that's a good thing. You don't want a game of Overwatch. I mean, people both like and hate goats. Hanzo is like trying to dissuade you from playing that goat's playstyle. Junkrat as well kind of dissuades that playstyle. Any character that can kind of spam out an area dissuades walking as a group, because they can spam at your group and kill you without even really having to aim for you in particular. But it's a lot more rare than you think that the kills are very unintentional. A large amount of the kills, when I watch Hanzo kills, I can kind of see exactly what the guy was thinking and why he shot where he did. Like, it always makes sense. And with sometimes with Junkrat, you don't have that feeling, right? There's just, it's not there, but we're not here to talk about Junkrat, we're here to talk about Hanzo. And for Hanzo, I can say pretty confidently, about 80% of the time, maybe 90% of the time, when I check an enemy Hanzo's kill, I'm like, oh, that guy, you know, he saw me walking to the right, he aimed a bit further to the right? Like here, Mercy did some like weird zigzaggy movement, and I had a hard time hitting her. I happened to get covered by my BAP, and he did the work for me. But I wasn't going to be able to kill that Mercy. She did some unpredictable movement, I didn't predict it correctly, and I'm not hitting my shots because of it. Right? It's a pretty straightforward system. I don't I really don't get why people hate on this hero. His one-shots, by nature of being a projectile hero, and his projectiles not being as fast as like hit scan itself, in the case of like a Lari, for example, just by nature of that, Hanzo is kind of just not bullshit, because he can avoid it. And I don't think he does, especially after his nerfs. I think the nerfs probably were pretty justified, because I feel like he plays about the same after the fact, so there's probably just covering some really annoying edge cases. Right, his mobility also isn't too crazy. I know he has a 4-second cooldown on his leap, and he also has a wall climb, but that's all his mobility, and he also moves slower every time he has to charge a shot, which kind of makes him less mobile. It kind of balances out about evenly. His wall climb and stuff just let him get to high grounds and stuff where snipers generally are, so he's a little bit harder to contest. Right there, it's like, yeah. I couldn't track that Mercy well enough, I don't get rewarded with the kill. It's like any hit scan hero, any normal DPS hero, Hanzo's about the same as. And you can hold the Storm Arrow for a little bit, but it's also not that much either. I just don't think any part of him's bullshit. Even Sight Arrow, which literally just gives you wall hacks on like a certain area of the map, they added a visual so you know. So if you see the wall hack visual and you just decide to go in anyway, that's just honestly on you at that point. I don't think that's too unfair to say. That's kind of my thoughts on Hanzo. He's a pretty fair, normal DPS hero. I don't think his one-shot's bullshit. I think it's okay to reward headshots with more damage, and with his long charge time and the way he slows down, you have so long to react to where he's going to be aiming and kind of outplay the Hanzo from just shooting. Because by nature, projectile, right? This Mei, I see here spamming right here, this telephone pole. I don't go near the telephone pole, and look at that. This Mei's doing 0 damage to me. 0. That she hasn't hit me once. It's the same thing with Hanzo. You see a Hanzo spamming a corner, don't go right around that corner, you know, give him a little bit more space and go there. Right there, I didn't pay attention. The Mei was spamming that exact same corner. He hasn't changed what he spammed. And he gets rewarded for it because I'm stupid and I forget. And that's okay. There's only 5 people to keep track of. If you can't keep track of one of the 5, you it's on you, right? At that point, it's your fault. I do agree that there are games where Hanzo feels like bullshit, but I have that same feeling against Widow, but like way amplified. Because there's actually maps by nature of being hit scan that you can't do anything about on Widow. Because you can just be somewhere on the map, and Widow can like frame 1 peek you and get you, and you literally have no counterplay other than just not, you know, the counterplay to a good Widow 90% of the time is just hope the Widow is bad. The counterplay to a good Hanzo, or just a decent Hanzo, or a Hanzo that's annoying you, is, you know, figure out how he's shooting, how he's predicting, and counteract that. And there's actually like a counteraction you can do. Right? When Hanzo's like consistently guessing that you're going to go right, if you walk left that next time, like, he's not going to get you. Pretty cut and dry. There's nothing too crazy going on here. He's also a very relaxing character. I mean, you don't have to, you know, you can play that safer range. A lot of the best, well, not best characters, a lot of the characters people like the most in Overwatch are either hard dive or sniper. Right? Ana is probably like the world's favorite support. You know, just chill to play against, etc., etc. And it's because she's just like a basic sniper with like limited mobility, and that's where Hanzo falls under, except he's projectile, so it's even less bullshit. I don't know. I'll make a whole thing on Widow, and we can explain why I still, despite her heavy nerfs, I still find her to be really annoying and stupid. And they were decently heavy nerfs. I know, like I've in the past, there are some people that have been in voice chat with me that definitely know I've said things a little bit differently. I've called a lot of Widow players entitled, and I clearly still agree with that, but I'll explain that more in the Widow episode, not the Hanzo one. I do feel like I've gotten my point across, though. It's not bullshit. And everything he has, the Storm Mirror doesn't do that much damage. It's good for, like, kind of spamming a little bit more when someone's approaching you. Kind of like a get away from me tool, but it's not, you know, a be-all end-all. It very rarely does the Storm Mirror on its own secure a kill. It's normally like just a finishing blow to someone that was already lit up, right? A tank on half health that decides to challenge you, and it deserves to die, I think. I think that makes sense, and that's as the tank player. Now, Bap's Window makes Hanzo kind of ridiculous, because I need one-shot body shots, but that's more of a problem with, like, Bap's Window. That's not really Hanzo. I don't find any part of his character to be that bullshit, and I think a lot of the people that consider him a, you know, a no-skill, all-luck hero just haven't played Hanzo for more than, like, a game. Because you can play him for one game and get lucky, right? If one in every 100 games are lucky, one in every 100 people that try Hanzo are going to get lucky with him. But you're not going to get, like, super good value, right? In the way I kind of just did that game, right? If we look at the stat line, it was actually a pretty good game for me. That was first game on in Hanzo in a while, but I also did play a decent amount of Hanzo, I think. I feel like he's like number 10 or something. He's pretty high up there as far as playtime goes. Yeah, I mean, like, he's just a fun, simple hero like any other DPS. His movement isn't super egregious. His shots are actually possible to avoid, which makes him a lot more understandable, right? I feel like projectile heroes, it's actually okay if someone with a projectile has a little bit more power in their shots, because they're actually possible to avoid, compared to, you know, Widow, where you can't. I don't know. If you guys have any more questions or anything around Hanzo, I can 100% go and try to explain them to you in the comments. I'm always willing to, you know, first off, admit I'm wrong if someone actually brings up a good point, but second off, further clarify anything I've said in any of these videos. So, you know, make sure you leave some comments. I've been loving the discussions that this series has brought about. It's been really fun to talk about. And with that being said, hope y'all enjoyed and have a great rest of your day.